This is our introduction into Chapter 6, which is our fifth unit. This time we're going to take a look at adjectivals. And we begin with the infamous buffalo sentence, which reads, buffalo, 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 buffalo. And yes, that is an actual sentence in the English language. We're going to go full circle in this unit, and we're going to come back to this sentence and talk about how we know it's actually a sentence. It's also very particular about which buffaloes are capitalized and which ones are lowercase. But listing the word buffalo 8 times in a row is actually a real sentence. I tried this once with my Alexa at home, and I asked Alexa if she knew the infamous buffalo sentence, and she did. In her own Alexa voice, rattled off the buffalo sentence to me. It was quite entertaining. Anyway, let's continue on. So, we're talking about adjectivals. We know that a noun is one type of a nominal. We learned that in Unit 3. A noun is a type of nominal. We also learned that an adverb is just one type of adverbial. We learned that in Unit 4. So therefore, if we follow the logic of the author's text, that an adjective is just one type of adjectival. The idea that there are other choices that we can use besides an adjective is now just something that we should come to expect. So there are many others, and so they're defined actually by where they reside in relation to the noun. So let's take a look at where they could actually be, in a sense. So the noun phrase are structured around the noun head word, the main noun. When we diagram, that's the noun we put on its flat or horizontal line, and then we built everything around it. So adjectives, adjectivals, not necessarily always adjectives, can be both before and also after this simple noun head word. So we call these both the pre-head word position as well as the post-head word position. So let's break down our pre-head word adjectivals and our post-head word adjectivals. So in front of the noun, or what we would call the pre-head word position, would be these 3 gems. This is where we have adjectives, this is where we have nouns, and this is where we have participles. Examples. We're going to take a look at these 3 sentences. We live next door to a grocery store. I drive an old black truck. My broken TV was set out with the garbage. Well, in each of these, I have a noun like store, truck, and TV. And all we're doing is simply laying the groundwork for this unit. So you may not necessarily know what all these things mean, but just kind of showing you that the word store, truck rather, has adjectives in front of it. Old, black, describing the word truck. I can also take the word store and put a noun in front of it, a grocery store. And so a noun, which could be a form of an adjective, is actually in front of it. I could say my broken TV set. We're going to find the word broken is what we call a participle because it is a strange little verb trying to do the job of an adjective. So in front of a noun, we can have these 3 structures. We can have adjectives, we can have nouns, we can also have participles, which are going to be verbs working as adjectives. Continuing with your notes, on the other side of the noun, we have 3 other structures. What we call the post-head word position, we can have prep phrases, we can have participial phrases, we can have what we call relative clauses. So in our example sentences, I could say the AP Bio exam on Tuesday will be challenging. The gummy candy melting in Mr. Marsh's drawer is old and stale, and this is the class that I dread most. Well, if I focus on these 3 nouns of exam, candy, and class, and now I'm going to focus not what's in front, but what's behind them, I notice a couple things. I notice that in the word exam, there's a prep phrase. When prep phrases describe nouns, they're always after the noun. That's why when a sentence begins with a prep phrase, it's not describing the subject. It's always describing the verb because a prep phrase has to come after the noun when it modifies it. If I wanted to use candy as my noun, I notice there's this big phrase which says melting in Mr. Marsh's drawer. We're going to find this is what we call a participial phrase, which comes after the noun. And lastly, this is the class that I dread most. Well, here's going to be this little mini sentence, this clause that I dread most, which is describing the word class. So after the noun, we have these 3 possible structures: a prep phrase, a participial phrase, and a relative clause. And then there are the exceptions. There are also adverbs and infinitives. No one ever told us that an adverb could be an adjective, but it could. And an infinitive has come back for a 3rd time, and an infinitive can also work as an adjective. So if I said lunch today was unappetizing, well, in this first example, the word lunch is being modified with the word today, which is kind of weird. Today is a noun, working as an adverb, working as an adjective. Wrap your head around that one. Today is a noun working as an adverb, which we call the adverbial objective, but it's actually working as an adjective this time because it's describing lunch. If I said the fashionable color to wear this fall is orange, I have an infinitive, to wear this fall, which is not describing the verb, and it's not a noun. It's actually working as an adjective describing color. It's a color to wear this fall. So these are all the structures that we're going to take on in this particular unit. So you're thinking, okay, great. Why do I even care? I understand. Sometimes you wonder that. So when we can locate the noun head word, when we can figure out where that guy is, we can determine the subject and the verb agreement without being tempted or tricked by the adjectivals. And that's a handy trick for the SAT. Let me show you what I mean. If I said the yellow paper with all my extensive notes has been or have been misplaced, well, if I think about it, paper's actually my noun head word. That's the subject. If I diagrammed it in my head, I'd see that paper is the subject. That means notes is just this sort of trap. It's a post-noun adjectival trap. It comes after the noun, and they're trying to trap me. But really, paper is the subject, and that lets me say that yellow paper has been misplaced. Another example, if I said the complicated notes for this week's AP Calc quiz really confuses or confuse me, well, the subject is actually notes. That's the noun head word. Quiz is just the post-noun adjectival trap, sitting comfortably in a prep phrase. But if I realize that quiz is not the subject, but notes is the subject, I would say that the notes confuse me. So another question we're going to take on is, when do we punctuate adjectives? Sometimes you see an adjective with a comma, and sometimes you don't. Wonder why. So if I said Ted consulted his little black book of phone numbers for a date for Saturday night, he is a smooth, cool player when it comes to the ladies. Let's bring Ted in, and that is his real name. Well, I can see a couple things. I can see little black book, and I can see smooth, cool player. When adjectives are butted up against each other, I notice that sometimes people put commas between them, and sometimes they don't. Like, why is that? It's a pretty simple rule. Let me show you the trick. The second one's going to take the comma, but the first one's not. Here's why. Well, when I can put the word and between the two adjectives and it makes sense in my head, my grammar gut, well, that means then cool, put a comma there. So could I say his little and black book? No, he doesn't have a little and black book. So no for that. But could I say he's a smooth and cool player? Yeah, that makes sense. So if I can put an and between them, it's a great place to put a comma between them. So therefore, this one doesn't get a comma, but this one does. Pop is right, Ted. So the new technique we're going to learn for this unit is simply, much like we did in the last unit, the very first time we started with adverbs, we focused on nouns serving as adverbs. Now we're going to focus on nouns serving as adjectives. So just like we would take a noun as an adverb called an adverbial objective and we flatten it on a horizontal line, we're going to do the same thing with a noun that's serving as an adjective. So if I said my favorite coffee cup is missing, well, before this, coffee would just be treated as an adjective, and it is. But now we realize it's actually a noun serving as an adjective. So I'm going to make it look like a noun by flattening it on my diagram. So we're going to do the same thing with all nouns serving as adjectives. So let's turn to the back page of our worksheet and try diagramming the sentence. Mr. Cantrell found the old, weathered, mechanical bull in his backyard at a neighborhood garage sale. All right, I'm going to pause my video and then restart and walk you through this diagram.